Thomas awakens in a rising lift. Accompanying him are cargo crates labeled WCKD. As the lift reaches its peak, a hatch above him swings open, revealing a swarm of young males akin to those in Lord of the Flies. Thomas starts running, halting when he comprehends he's enclosed within a modest glade bordered by towering walls. There's no escape. Galley restrains Thomas, preventing him from darting into the labyrinth reachable via a gate in the wall. The Assembly's chief, Albie, and his advisor, Newt, delineate the circumstances to Thomas. Every month, the elevator, referred to as the box, surfaces with provisions and a fresh boy. They inhabit the Glade, dubbing themselves Gladers. None retain their memories, but their names return after several days. Each boy undertakes a unique role. Some are builders, others runners. A gate in the colossal wall opens daily, sealing at night. It grants access to a maze surrounding the Glade. Runners navigate it, seeking an exit. If trapped in the labyrinth overnight, the Grievers claim you. The maze reshapes nightly. Albie was the inaugural boy in the Glade. The reason for their presence remains unknown. Thomas begins bonding with the lad who surfaced a month before him. He's among the youngest in the group. His name is Chuck. Thomas is honored with a festivity that night. Galley grapples with another boy, inviting Thomas to participate. Their brawl results in Thomas recalling his name after hitting his head. That night, Thomas dreams. Scattered images populate it, but a woman utters, "Wicked is good." Albie introduces Thomas to more landmarks. Boys etch their names into the wall upon arrival, crossing it out upon death. Thomas attempts to assimilate, assigned the duty of excavating fertilizer from the forest. During this, Ben, one of the runners, stung by a griever, assaults him. As they struggle, Ben accuses, "This is all your fault. I saw you." Ben is undergoing the changing. A sting induces unbearable pain, leading to violence. No remedy exists, so they push Ben into the labyrinth as the doors close. The daylight griever attack alarms everyone. Thomas experiences another dream that night. The lady reiterates that wicked is good, but he now recalls himself and a similarly aged girl reviewing diagnostics at workstations. The subsequent day, Albie ventures into the labyrinth to retrace Ben's steps. Daytime rain ensues. As evening approaches, Albie remains missing. The boys converge near the maze entrance. As the doors start to close, lead runner Minho appears with a severely injured Albie. Thomas dashes into the maze to assist, but the door shuts behind him. Minho and Thomas suspend Albie's body using vines to safeguard it from the grievers. A griever sting afflicted Albie within the maze. A griever materializes, resembling a colossal bedbug with mechanical legs and a scorpion tail, chasing Thomas. They scamper around as the maze walls shift. Eventually, Thomas entices the griever between converging walls. A crushed griever. The ensuing day, Galley calls a Gladers assembly. The majority laud Thomas for slaying a griever. However, a group led by Galley believes their rules are safety measures, and since Thomas's arrival, anomalies have occurred, like daytime griever attacks. Meanwhile, the elevator emerges. The boys investigate the lift's contents. It transports no supplies, just a girl. She faintly mutters, "Thomas," before collapsing. She clutches a note stating, "She's the last one ever." Galley demands Thomas's punishment for non-runners infiltrating the maze. Galley's suspicious of the girl's recognition of Thomas and fears the lift hasn't descended since the girl's retrieval. Newt proposes confining Thomas without food for a night and then designating him as a runner. Galley is frustrated by Newt's leniency. Several boys re-enter the maze, to Galley's dismay, to inspect the griever carcass. Inside, they discover a peculiar device displaying the number 7 marked WCKD. They deduce that the entity sending supplies also manufactures grievers. Minho reveals a maze map to Thomas. Various outer sectors open daily as the maze alters. Each outer segment has a number. Last night, Section 7 was open. The girl awakens, throwing objects from a tower at the boys below. Thomas identifies himself and she permits him to ascend. He explains that her memory wipe will reverse in a few days. She retorts that she already remembers her name, Teresa, and also remembers Thomas. He discloses his dreams about her and a woman repeating, "Wicked is good." Teresa had discovered 2 syringes in her pocket upon awakening. That night, Thomas endures his penalty of confinement. Chuck pays him a visit, providing food. He also requests Thomas to deliver a small sculpted figure he made to his parents. Although Chuck cannot remember them, he believes they remember and miss him. Thomas returns the statue, assuring Chuck that he can hand it over himself. The following morning, Thomas and Minho enter the maze with the Griever's device. The gadget begins clicking, leading them to a never-before-seen section. Minho observes all outer maze sections are open. They encounter a WCKD loading dock ending in the dead end, but the device changes color, opening a new pathway leading to what resembles a sewer tunnel marked by Griever slime. They return to the Glade. Thomas decides to use one of the syringes on the still changing Albie. Albie recovers. Upon waking, he tells Thomas, "You were their favorite." However, before he can elaborate, doors throughout the maze open, unleashing a horde of Grievers. A massive Griever onslaught ensues, killing several boys and ravaging their village. Albie is among the casualties. Chuck narrowly escapes a Griever, losing its tail in the process. After the attack, Thomas surmises that the Griever's sting venom triggers memory recovery. He stings himself using the severed tail, regaining some memory. The maze isn't a prison, it's a test. He visualizes all the boys in incubation chambers, many panicking. He also sees himself and Teresa as scientists. Upon revival, using the second syringe, Thomas confesses his roles in the boys' predicament. Gally is incensed and, along with his supporters, binds Thomas and Teresa outside the maze's entrance. However, Thomas still has supporters who free them, splitting the Gladers. Thomas tells Gally he'd prefer to die seeking escape than perish in the Glade, idle. He leads a group into the maze. As they reach the loading dock area, they're assaulted by Grievers. They traverse the sewer-like passage leading to a locked door. Teresa requires a numerical code. Realizing the code corresponds to the normal maze opening sequence, she inputs it and everyone crosses the door, crushing trailing Grievers. Walking through corridors, they find a door marked exit. They pass through and find themselves in the lab from Thomas's dream. All scientists are dead. A video starts playing. Ava Page, the woman from earlier, explains a global catastrophe called the Flare. She belonged to the controversial World Catastrophe Kill Zone Department, or WCKD, which believed the boys' brain scans during their trials could provide a cure. As she speaks, guerrilla soldiers storm in, executing other scientists. She expresses satisfaction at the boys passing the initial test, reminding them that wicked is good. Before ending the video, Paige seemingly shoots herself in the head. A door opens to the outside. However, before anyone exits, Gally enters with a gun, asserting they all belong in the Glade. He attempts to shoot Thomas, but Chuck intercepts the bullet. Gally is stabbed in the chest. Chuck, now wounded, hands the bloodied statue to Thomas before succumbing to his injuries. A group resembling the gorillas from the video rushes in, guiding the children to waiting helicopters. Initially, it appears they are in a desert, but a wider view reveals the remnants of a city. Buildings are ruined and everything is buried in sand. As they fly over the maze and Glade, no one questions why the helicopters didn't just land in the Glade to rescue them. Paige, surprisingly alive and cleaning faux blood off her face, states the children took the bait. More children survived than she expected, proving the maze test successful.